Good afternoon and welcome to your Johnston County Board of Education meeting. Today is October 11th, 2022. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Dance, all board members are present. At this time, we'll have the invocation by Mr. Al Bird, Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Ronald Johnston.
Father, we are so grateful and thankful for the opportunity to be able to do business on behalf of Johnston County Public Schools. I pray tonight we may do everything decently in order, and that you may be pleased with everything we do, Lord, as we continue to push the school system and this agenda and plan forward. We bless and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session for the purpose stated on our agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Carroll, second by Mr. Wooten. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'll now enter closed session. Good afternoon and welcome to your Johnston County Board of Education meeting. We welcome everybody here today. We have already had our call to order with our invocation and pledge as well as our closed session. At this time, we'll go into our open session agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of September 13th, 2022 regular session, September 14th, 2022 special session, and September 21st, 2022 special session.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Sessoms, second by Mr. Byrd. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries 7-0. At this time, we'll have discussion and adjustment to the agenda, starting with Mr. Johnson.
No adjustments.
Mr.
No
Carroll.
adjustment.
Mr. Byrd.
No adjustments.
Ms. Sessoms.
None.
Ms. Andrews.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to move 10C, 1 through 3, and make it 7E. That would be the items for the Chief of Facilities and Construction, moving that from 10C to 7D. I'm sorry. 7E.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. I'd like to move items of Chief of Finance from 10E 1 through 4 to 7F 1 through 4.
Thank you, Mr. Wooten. I'll entertain a motion to approve these adjustments.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Andrews, second by Mr. Wooten. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries 7-0. At this time, we'll get updates from our committee, starting with finance.
Mr. Chairman, I want to defer my time to the audit that will be coming up under 7F 1 through 4.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wooten. Ms. Andrews.
No report.
Ms. Sessoms.
Yes, the Policy Review Committee will be meeting from 9 to 1 on Monday, October the 24th. Our regularly scheduled meeting this coming Thursday has been postponed.
Thank you, Ms. Sessoms. Mr. Carroll.
Have you seen Mr. Bullock? Okay. Mr. Chairman, if I might, I'd like to defer my report till when the chairman of the Friends of the Johnston County Public Schools is here.
That's fine. We'll do that. At this time, we'll go into special recognitions.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bracy, Chairman Sutton, members of the board, and Mr. Malone. It is my pleasure to be before you again to bring you special recognitions on this evening. Let me first share that anyone that's been recognized, the parents of those individuals, are able to come stand behind the board and capture pictures of their students or their children while we recognize them, okay? Our first recognition will be from Corinth Holders High School, so if you would, please come forward.
Bring the whole crew up here, if you don't mind.
It is no secret to us that Johnston County has some of the best bands in the entire world, and that is certainly the case because on September 27th, Mr. Boone, co-founder and chair of the world-renowned London New Year's Day Parade and Festival, along with Steve Sumners, chair of the London's Mayor Association, Mr. Dean Oblasky, senior American consultant, and Mr. Bill Northern, senior director of international participation, traveled all the way from London to Corinth Holders High School to invite their marching band to participate in London's New Year's Day Parade and Festival on New Year's Day 2023 and 24. I'm going to be short because Ms. Dove has a little bit of information, but I do want to make mention of this. According to Mr. Boone, the parade is expected to have a street audience of nearly 750,000 people. That's in attendance on the streets, and nearly 10,000 participants in the parade itself. Now, to put that in perspective, that is twice the number of participants as the Macy's Day Parade that we enjoy from year to year. And so at this time, we're going to have Ms. Olivia Dove share a little bit more information on that.
Good evening, Dr. Bracy, Chairman Sutton, Vice Chair Sessoms, and board members. On behalf of the Corinth Holders Band Program, we would like to thank you for tonight's recognition for our invitation and acceptance to perform in the 2023-24, so next year, not this year, next year's London New Year's Day Parade. We're truly honored and excited to be able to give our students this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, as well as represent Corinth Holders High School and Johnston County Public Schools on an international level. As you may know, Corinth Holders is one of the newer high schools in Johnston County, and what began with 30 students is now a little over 300 year-round in 8 ensembles housed at our school. Our students also participate in a variety of honor ensembles that recognize individuals for their individual achievement regionally and nationally. Our band students over the last 12 years have gone on to become linemen, cosmetologists, IT facilitators, band directors, nominees for the Park and the Moorhead scholarships, receive full scholarships to prestigious universities, and more. Because of the positive impact our band program has on them, they have the confidence to achieve anything they put their minds to. Being promoted to world class, this is Ethan Nachman. He's in our world class percussion ensemble joining us this evening to represent our marching band as the percussion captain. As well as we were here a few months ago to recognize our WINS group for winning world championships. The student body president right now is in band, as well as we just had a homecoming princess last week named, and she is also an assistant drum major in our band program. It's a combination of the hard work and dedication of current and former students, as well as the above successes in our amazing village that we were nominated for this prestigious honor. While our excitement continues to grow, and we patiently, or maybe not patiently, await for the next 15 months to fly by, our minds can't help but turn to the financial obligation that this takes for our students, families, and community. But good news, over the coming months, we'll have some great fundraisers and opportunities for the community to support the Corinth Holders High School Band. If you take a second and look at my teacher webpage on the Corinth Holders High School website, there's a tab on the left side just for London. You can view our official invitation. You can visit the London New Year's Day Parade, see our itinerary, everything that they have in store for us, and follow along with our fundraisers throughout the semester. You too can help us get to London. Thank you so much.
Ma'am,
Yes, sir.
I might have missed it, but do you have an approximate amount of how much it's going to cost to get this?
Total in trip. Right now, we're working with the company in setting up those things. For 8 days, 7 nights, they send us a shipping container for all of our equipment, hotels, all the touristy things. Talking with Mr. Bob Bone while he was here, they give us a travel pass while we're there. Right now, before any fundraisers have begun, we're at $3,610 per attendee. So we'll be working to bring that cost down total per student, as well as have chaperones and everybody attend with us.
For my math, how many students again?
We're working towards at least 60 students. So far, we're in the process of sign-ups right now for all those that want to go and have the desire to go, and that goes from now through December, because we have until then to kind of get our payments made. So we're hoping for about 60 students. And as it stands right now, we have 10 students and 11 adults. So I think the adults are just as excited as the students are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that we'll assist as much as we possibly can. Mr. Britt, I'll be getting with you on my November paycheck. That'll be to my last one on the board. I will be pledging some of that towards this trip. So,
Thank you so much.
yes, absolutely.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Forgot that part. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Oh, that was great. It was a great morning. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So proud of you, as always.
Thank you so much.
That is amazing, and I don't know where those type of trips were when I was in school, so that is truly amazing. The next group of individuals we'll recognize this afternoon is our character ed students. So if you all would please come stand right next to us. All of our character ed students. You all can stand on either side. And for the parents and principals, if you all want to come behind the board to capture pictures, you're more than welcome. All right. All right, first we have Mr. Jadiel Rodriguez. Mr. Rodriguez, if you would identify raise your hand. There he is. Mr. Rodriguez is a 5th grade student at Dixon Road Elementary where Miss Amy Creed is principal. Mr. Rodriguez has been recognized for the character trait respect. Jadiel's teacher, Dana Coleman, states that he is one of the most respectful students she has ever had over the many years of teaching. Jadiel treats everyone, not just adults, with the utmost respect and kindness. He works hard every day and genuinely cares for others, always looking for ways to help whenever he can. He is very aware of how others around him are feeling and does whatever he can to lift others' spirit when he senses they are struggling or just having a bad day. He values every individual person and respects them for who they are. He is such a good role model for his peers and the younger students in our school. Next, we have Mr. Andy Flores Leon, a 5th grade student at McGee's Crossroads Elementary where Miss Lindsay Dunn is principal. Oh, there he is. All right. I didn't see you over there. Mr. Leon is being recognized for the character trait of respect. Most of his current teachers have known Andy and watched him grow and flourish into the amazing young man he is today. Andy has a huge heart and isn't afraid to show it. He cares for the well-being of his teachers and classmates. Andy is a leader among his peers and sets a great example for respect and responsibility. His classmates recognize his outstanding character and often follow his lead as a positive example. Andy is a member of our school's safety patrol with the primary role of assisting students from kindergarten to 5th grade with directions. His joyful personality is a calming presence, especially for our little ones trying to find their way in the brand new big school. Andy is such a well-rounded student that it was hard to choose just one character trait that he exhibits the most. Mr. Andy Flores Leon. Thirdly, we have Miss Kenzie Brooks, a 6th grade student at McGee's Crossroad Middle, where Miss Lakeisha Shepard is the principal. Miss Brooks is being recognized for the character trait responsibility. Kenzie constantly does what is expected of her in and out of the classroom. She is always on top of her responsibilities in the classroom with completion of assignments and classwork. When unsure of something that has been communicated or that is expected, Kenzie always raises her hands and makes sure that she is doing things just right. In addition, when making mistakes, Kenzie always apologizes when and if needed and focuses on following through the next time in the way that she should. She is always prepared for class, turns in every assignment on time, and is very, very organized. Next, we have Mr. Jack Westover, a 11th grade student at West Johnston High, where Miss Jennifer Swartz is the principal. Mr. Westover is being recognized for being extremely dependable. Jack Westover has demonstrated dependability since he entered West Johnston High. Jack offered his assistance with our tech booth for fine arts when the entire school community was struggling with how to restructure every protocol and carry out our large group functions. Jack's leadership in the tech booth does not end with assisting West Johnston students and faculty with lights and sound for its production. Jack served as an important component to set up the auditorium sound and lights when Johnston County hosted this past year's job fair. His enthusiasm and dedication in serving the large school community is apparent to those outside the school as well. His peers selected him to serve as the junior class event liaison due to his dependable behavior and ability to get things done. And lastly, we have Mr. Benjamin Krokowski, a fifth grade student at Westview Elementary, where Miss Shanitra Mangum is the principal. Mr. Krokowski is being recognized for epitomizing self-discipline. Students who show self-discipline are committed to doing their best in all situations. Benjamin Krokowski shows self-discipline each and every day. Benny, which is his nickname, is a true leader in our fifth grade cohort. He is an extremely hard worker and is committed to making the best grades possible and mastering standards in all subject areas. He approaches each assignment with a great attitude and leads open discussions in class with his peers. Benny treats his classmates with kindness and is always available to help if needed. He is always careful to treat all adults and staff members with respect and is willing to lend a helping hand. Benny is a Battle of the Books team member, and he is a part of the school's broadcast team. If you all would, please help us celebrate all of our Character Ed students.
Congratulations to mom and dad, too. Congratulations to mom and dad.
At this time, we're going to have Mr. Josh Flisco to come provide us some athletic recognitions, followed by Mr. Brian Petrano.
Good evening, Chairman Sutton, Vice Chair Sessoms, Dr. Bracy, members of the board. I'm happy to be here tonight to go over athletic recognitions. Some were from last spring, and some we recently heard about in the summer. First, we have an athlete from North Johnston High School, Joanna Morales. Here to help us support her as well is Principal David Hawks. Joanna had an absolutely fantastic spring as a junior. She was named as All-State as a junior soccer player. She had 45 goals and 7 assists. And the coach had this to say about Joanna. She is one of those players you can always count on to score a goal for your team. Joanna has physical soccer skills, but also has developed a great mental game. Although she knows the game of soccer very well, she continues to seek and learn more about the sport and from others. She's very humble on and off the field. She's a role model for all of our players at North Johnston High School. We're so excited to follow her this spring and see what lies beyond. And I know she's getting ready for the spring, and we're excited to follow her. Let's give a round of applause for Joanne. And next, I'm going to call up both Coach Asmussen and Coach Marlon Lee, if you both can come up here and stand alongside of me. Very happy to be here with two representatives of Clayton, both the athletic director of Clayton High School and the assistant athletic director of the high school. And both of these gentlemen are getting nominated for a great feat this spring. Both of them will be representing Johnston County and their sports as a whole in the All-Star Games through the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, through the North Carolina Coaches Association. Coach Asmussen first is going to be the head boys coach for the East All-Star Game. In attendance tonight, his family's here tonight as well, and going to be taking their daughter to soccer practice right after this and having fun with that. Coach A has been, coaching for 21 years, 14 of which have been at Clayton High School as the men's varsity soccer coach. Coach Asmussen has also coached at Lassiter High School in Marietta, Georgia, West Johnston, North Johnston, and Corinth Holders. In addition to soccer, he coached 2 years of varsity softball. Coach A has also served as the Clayton High School athletic director for the past 4 years. He's being recognized tonight again for being the 2023 East Men's Soccer Coach at the North Carolina East-West All-Star Game. Coach Asmussen has a career coaching record of 280, 107, and 30 ties. His team at Clayton have won 8 conference championships and reached the Elite 8 in the NCHS playoffs twice. Coach A said, "I am absolutely honored to represent both Clayton High School and Johnston County Public Schools. In no way is it the singular honor, but more so an honor for all the players and coaches who have worked so hard for so many years to make Clayton soccer the program it is today. I'm just honored to represent them." And that says a lot about Coach A and how he feels about his programs that he runs there. So let's give him a round of applause and congratulations. And now Coach Marlon Lee, Assistant Athletic Director at Clayton High School. He's going to be honored to here tonight and recognized as the head North Carolina girls coach for the 2023 Carolinas Basketball All-Star Classic. They will be pitting the North Carolina's top girls varsity players, seniors from all the state against South Carolina's. As the head coach, he'll be collaborating with the western side of the state and his coaching staff. We're very excited to see where the game's going to be. We'll make some announcements when that gets released, but we're very excited to support him and all of North Carolina females in that game. Coach Lee has 17 seasons as a head varsity coach for Clayton High School girls program. Through his 22 years at Clayton High, he has also helped coach the boys basketball team and the track team. He is currently in his 4th year as assistant athletic director. In addition, he serves the whole Clayton student body as the dean of students. Coach Lee is an active member with the NCHSA and has served on several boards over the years. North Carolina Basketball Coaches Association, to name one, and the community at large. He has over 250 wins as a head coach, and after the season, he'll be pretty close to 300. So shortly, if anyone wants to keep some pressure on him, it may be doable. We might have to crunch some numbers, but we'll definitely be close after this season, Coach. So Coach Lee believes in mentorship, and we're very thankful to have him for the differences he makes every day from the first bell to when the last student leaves campus. Let's give a round of applause for Coach Lee.
All right, continuing with our recognitions and celebrations, we have 2 terrific employees to share with you today. First, I'd like to call Miss Letitia Lee to come stand beside me, and I'll recognize both employees of the month, and then I'll ask them to come around and greet the board. Miss Lee is a licensure specialist in human resources, so right here in this building every single day. And I have sometimes I read information, but I have firsthand knowledge about what's written here about Miss Lee. Every single day, regardless of what Miss Lee deals with in her personal or professional life, she comes to work with a genuine smile. You see it right here. It's what you get every day. Her personality is contagious and consistent. She is courteous, respectful, and helpful in any situation. She fills in for others voluntarily when they are out of the office, and she always checks on others to wish them a good day. Miss Lee notices others' lives and dispositions, and she will occasionally slip a note wishing them well, or will leave a thoughtful gift. She seeks no recognition for her random acts of kindness. It's just her way. I can say it's difficult to find someone who is more sincere, professional, caring, and compassionate consistently throughout the work day and week. And I could go on, but I'll stop there. Ms. Lee, thank you for what you do each and every day for our school system. Congratulations on being our Classified Employee of the Month. Couple of goodies, as I mentioned, and I'll see that smile tomorrow. Our Certified Employee of the Month, Ms. Suzanne Sweat, if you'll come join me. Her principal is here, Mr. David Allen. Ms. Sweat serves as the JOCO Teach Coordinator at Smithfield Selma High School. There were a couple of pages of stuff, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to read all of it, but I've tried to capture what I could. Ms. Sweat is without a doubt a great teacher. She's demonstrated excellence in teaching and serving the school community. As the JOCO Teach Coordinator, she's demonstrated leadership to foster a community of students preparing to enter the teaching profession. Very important. While the first cohort of students are set to graduate under Ms. Sweat's leadership, students have participated in and completed field experiences, college coursework, and state and national workshops. Ms. Sweat has also participated in the school improvement team and helped create the school's Sparta Time. She leads professional development for other teachers and staff. She's also taught rigorous courses such as AP Language and Compositions to students in JOCO Teach and other academic programs in the school. She regularly collaborates with Beginning Teacher Coordinator and co-created a beginning of the year teacher workshop where JOCO Teach students and beginning teacher staff learn together the rigors, challenges, and expectations of becoming a teacher. One of her nominees says, Ms. Sweat strives to help better the school and community surrounding Triple S. And it goes on and on and on, but I'll stop there. We cannot thank you enough for what you do each and every day at Triple S and for the community at large. Congratulations on being our Certified Employee of the Month.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My first item is the project. It's Smithfield Middle to construct the new covered entrance and canopy for the carpool drop-off. Mosley Architects provided the design. Bids were received on September 7th, and the low bid of $303,000 was received from Daniels and Daniels of Goldsboro. An additional contingency for unforeseen issues is also requested of $25,000 that may arise during construction, and this is a year 4 2018 bond project for action.
This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Andrews, second by Mr. Johnston. Any questions or concerns? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. My second one is our ESSER funded project for design for the HVAC controls upgrades. Hallelujah! I've been talking 6 months about the MS-DOS systems. This is the project. So these controls are the brains of our commercial HVAC systems, and they are well beyond their life and are obsolete. Replacing will allow for not only more reliable operation, but also incorporate modern controls and drastically improve the indoor air quality and system efficiencies. So this project will replace the controls, the sensors, the thermostats, the valves, the graphics, the schedules, the trends, commissioning, so on and so forth. Also, a separate proposal was solicited from Dewberry for equipment replacement of 4 boilers at South Johnston High School. So the recommendation is to award this to Dewberry in Engineers of Raleigh, NC, to provide these design services for a total contract of $622,911, or 6.1% of the anticipated construction cost. And again, this is a ESSER-funded project for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Sessom, second by Mr. Johnston. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. And my last one is, again, for Westview with the NCDD OT due to project I-5111, which is widening I-40 and Cleveland Road. Due to some unforeseen grading issues, the state needs to purchase 0.278 acres of our school site. But with that, we respectfully declined and said that we have severe concerns for safety. So we were first very, very appreciative of them working with us, but they are offering to provide 1,000 feet of solid fencing along with additional landscaping to provide a significant buffer between the school and the roadways adjacent to it. So with that, we are recommending approval of the sale of this portion of property for $40,875, and also accept the safety improvements that they're offering with this.
Motion by Mr. Carroll.
Second.
Second by Ms. Andrews. I would just like to say I'm glad that we pushed back a little bit and got the safety. I've ridden by that part of 40 and what they're trying to do, and that's going to be a blessing just to have that additional buffer there for the students and staff. So thank you for making sure that happened.
Sure.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now go pitch to your son's team. Mr. Britt.
Evening, board members, Dr. Bracy. First item tonight is an item of information, and I am pleased to introduce Mr. Adam Skapurik with Anderson Smith White. Adam is our external CPA that will discuss our fiscal year 21-22 audit and our financial statements. So this time,
Mr. Britt, just in case Mr. Adam is not completely finished right at 6 o'clock, we will, we've got 2 public comments tonight, so we may just ask him if it's okay with him, if we can get these comments and then, come back to that. Is that okay, Adam? Okay. All right. Thank you.
all right, Adam, the floor is yours.
30 minutes, that's the goal. Dr. Bracy, board members, again, my name's Adam Skapurik. I'm a partner with Anderson Smith White. We've conducted the audit of Johnston County Schools as of June 30, 2022. And a part of that audit contract with the board being the entity that hired us to conduct the audit of management, we're required to be available to answer questions, present the audit, go over some of the key points in the audit. The financial statements are nearly 80 pages long. There's a lot of information in there. A lot of that is required by accountants, by governmental accounting standards, but not all of it is useful for the actual everyday management of the board. I like to focus my attention and your attention to fund balance rather than net position. Net position being as if you were a Fortune 500 company and had to value all your pensions and used the value of your buildings to secure loans, and really focus on net position or fund balance, which is really the liquid assets available for appropriating in the next year's budget. So that being said, the first page of the audit report. Page 1 is our opinion letter. We're hired to conduct the audit and provide you our opinion. There are 4 opinion letters within these statements. The first one being page 1, basically stating that we believe that these financial statements accurately reflect the net position and the fund balances of Johnston County Schools as of June 30, 2022. This is what's considered a clean, unmodified opinion letter. Again, I told you I'd like to focus on fund balance rather than net position. Exhibit 1 is the balance sheet that shows your net position. It combines all of your governmental funds into one column. It combines both of your business type funds into one column. It adds those assets and liabilities to show that in total, Johnston County Schools has a net position of $61 million. That number does not equate to anything related to fund balance. In fact, before a couple of years ago, you were actually at a negative net position. You've actually constructed yourself into positive net position by building buildings. You build $100 million worth of buildings, you add $100 million of net position that then gets depreciated over 50 years. So it takes a long time for that depreciation to eat away at that $100 million. So, and right now, the pension plan, which is a state liability, is at its most funded level it's been at years, so that liability is lower than normal. So this, again, $61 million positive net position really isn't as important to me as the fund balance. And when you go to page 14 of your statements, Exhibit 3, which is a balance sheet for your governmental funds, this to me is where you should look for, again, those dollars for next year's appropriation. How much cash do we have on hand? How much do we have available? What are our true liabilities that are going to be a cash resource as of June 30? And so for this year, your governmental funds have a combined fund balance of $39.8 million. State and federal funds do not carry fund balance. Those funds are use it or lose it. You get an appropriation, you draw down from that appropriation as you spend it, and you're not allowed to carry DPIs or the federal government's cash in your bank for more than 3 days, so you have no cash and no fund balance from those major revenue sources. All of your fund balance is held in your local funds, your general fund, your other special revenue fund, capital outlay, and the individual schools. The 2 most important numbers being the fund balance in the general fund and the other special revenue fund. Those years ago used to be combined. They made up your general fund. This is where your county appropriations come in, special state and federal smaller grants that run through like NC Pre-K, Medicaid. This is where, again, you house most of your fund balance for appropriating in future years. So the general fund balance, the first column, is $31 million, an increase of 7.9 from the prior year. And the other special revenue fund has $2 million of fund balance, an increase of $1.2 million from the prior year. You also have $3 million of capital outlay fund balance. That increased $2 million this year. That was because you had a one-time insurance payment for about $1.4 million this year. As well as about $200,000 in surplus sales. So you actually made a good bit of money in capital outlay. You don't typically see that because most of capital outlay is county funded. You have a project, invoice comes in, you request the funds from the county or the county pays it, and it's a wash. You don't really make any money. It's every expenditure, every revenue has an offsetting expenditure. So to actually add fund balance to capital outlay is not typical. And this year you added $2.2 million. And then the individual school fund is the funds held at the schools. That totaled $3 million across all of your schools. Any questions about your fund balance? The general fund balance is broken up into several categories. There's levels of restriction. You're not allowed to spend fund balance that you have not collected yet. So an outstanding receivable at year end is considered a restricted fund balance. You're, again, not allowed to appropriate those dollars until you've held them after a year end. You also have $8 million assigned by management or by the board for transfer to capital outlay fund. So again, that's a management assignment of fund balance, $8 million to be sent over to capital outlay. Those transfers have to be approved by the county, and it just didn't happen before June 30. So at this point in time, at June 30, it's considered an assignment and will be transferred in the 22-23 year, leaving you with $23 million of unassigned, spendable, appropriatable fund balance. Page 16, Exhibit 4, is the income statement for those funds. Again, showing you the revenues and expenditures of each of those funds, where you can see where you added the $7.9 million of fund balance in general. You can see that your revenue sources in state public school fund total nearly $269 million. Your federal grants funds this year were $51 million. Typically, you have about $20 million running through that your state federal grants fund, but you had $31.5 million of ESSER funds. Those ESSER funds, while a windfall of dollars, they are set to expire over the course of the next couple of years, 2023, 2024. So again, that federal grants fund will go back to normal at some point around the $20 million a year mark. The other special revenue collected $5.6 million. Capital outlay, $15 million, again, mostly county funded. And then the individual schools have about $6 million that run through their books in total every year. Any questions about any of those governmental funds? Again, you've got a host of governmental funds and then 2 business type funds. So after going over the balance sheet and income statement for the governmental, if there's no questions, I'll move on to your 2 business type funds.
You mentioned about ESSER funds.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought up a big number, 31 million. It's important to understand, and you can explain this, ESSER is not just money that's sitting in the bank.
Right. None of your federal funds are sitting in the bank. The $10 million you got for Title I never sat, it can only sit in your bank for 3 days.
I just think it's important that the public know that this money is not sitting, we're not sitting on any money in the account. We spend the money and then we ask for a reimbursement of whatever our allotment is, and that's important for the public.
Yeah, DPI designed, and this is when you go across the country, and actually one of the reasons North Carolina is having trouble creating a viable accounting software is because North Carolina is different. Other school systems around the country, they will get their dollars in lump sums. They will get it like you receive your county fundings, monthly installments of X dollars. North Carolina requires you to basically write a check, and on the day you issue the check, the week before, ask for the money so that it drops into the account right before the check's issued. If you write a $1,000 check out of federal funds and decide, wait a minute, I would have rather spent that out of state funds, you then have to tell DPI to move that $1,000 from wherever they took it out of into the new program, or even into your local dollars. They transfer cash between state account and local as you move expenditures around. You're never holding federal dollars for more than 3 days and state dollars for more than a month. At the end of every month, they calculate how much they gave you versus how much you sent out, and they take back all the excess or push down if you requested too little. So that is, again, just a way to manage the state and federal funds at a state level that, again, is different in North Carolina compared to much of the nation.
So just for clarity, because some may think that we don't put money in ESSER. We don't put money in ESSER. ESSER is a grant, basically,
Right.
that is given to us pending our expenditure of the money and reimbursement.
That's right. And
From
if
the ESSER grant, because some people think we put money in the ESSER grant. That we don't do that.
Right, you were allotted a set amount that you can spend on certain qualified expenditures, and some of those expenditures will overlap other programs. And so at no point are you ever putting ESSER money back. What you can do, like I said, you can spend ESSER funds and to decide that it would better have been spent out of a state PRC or a local PRC, and you can make those adjustments, but the cash actually never flows through a transaction where the school system is doing a transfer. You notify DPI, they move the cash around, and then they, on their books, mark that, okay, you had this $1,000 that you spent out of ESSER, but now it's $1,000 that you spent out of local or state funds.
But we cannot spend ESSER funds without the approval of DPI.
That's right. You have an ongoing plan that continues to change, and you add things that qualify, and that plan gets approved, and then you can spend those funds on the, again, items in the approved plan. Still never being able to go over your allotment. Now, every once in a while, they'll send out a new allotment. Here's a couple $100,000 extra that you can spend on this very specific thing. You adjust your plan, then you can spend it.
Well, and to tag on to what Ms. Andrews said and you just said, it's really important that the public understand that this money is highly restricted, that it is not like local dollars where we can pretty much see fit where to spend that money. ESSER money is highly restricted.
Yep.
And it will be going away. It's not reoccurring.
Right. Yeah, it is a short-term windfall to help offset the cost of COVID. Some of that cost being learning loss, and learning loss is going to continue well past the existence of the ESSER grant. And so any funds that can be added to fund balance in these times with ESSER funds, districts across the state are using this as an opportunity to save up for when those funds expire to continue mediation for learning loss or for the extra nurses or for the extra psychologists. All of these programs that are funded by ESSER, at some point you determine, do we let the contracts expire, let people go home, or do we start funding it out of local dollars? You also have two business-type funds, your child care fund and your school food service fund. Your child care fund, back up and running, actually collected $1.1 million of child care fees this year. So again, that fund was hurt with the pandemic, as was the child nutrition fund. But this year, for 21-22, with back to a traditional learning schedule, kids in the classroom as much as possible, and a high reimbursement rate for free meals and every kid eating for free, you were actually able to add $9.5 million to your cash balance in child nutrition. So where you were at a cash balance of $1.7 million, you now have $11 million of cash on hand. And I point out the cash number because the business type funds, they have to record the fixed assets, the pension plans directly within their fund. So we can't really look at fund balance because for them, fund balance is net position. They're the same. So I like to look at the most important asset, cash on hand. Now you can manipulate cash by not paying payables timely or trying to fast forward collections of receivables. But if you look at cash in conjunction with the changes in current assets and other current liabilities, really cash is the best gauge for financial health of the child care and school food service funds. So,
And you check all the cash that the school system has. You verify with the banks and
yeah,
make sure.
so our audit approach is what's called a balance sheet audit approach. We figure that if we verify and audit the balance sheet at the beginning of the year, because we were the auditors the previous, or even if a different auditor audited those balances at the beginning of the year, and we audit the balance sheet at the end of the year, and that means verifying and tying in every asset and liability. So you bookend your year with a clean audited balance sheet on both sides. And so whether you collected and spent $100 million or collected and spent $500 million, I know where you began and I know where you ended. So the biggest portion of our audit evidence really is on that balance sheet, which includes sending out cash confirmations to every bank you use, to DPI to see how much cash is actually in the bank for your state and federal funds. Because we talked about, you don't carry cash on the books, but you still have cash in the bank to cover outstanding checks. So but there's still cash there, so we verify that that cash is equal to your outstanding checks. We also send confirmations to the North Carolina Capital Management Trust, if you have cash there, or what's called the STIF account. These are all accounts held by the North Carolina Treasury and are confirmed every year as to their bank balance, so that we can then use those confirmations and reconcile down to your book balance.
And these confirmations go to you and not to the Johnston County Public Schools, correct?
Yeah, we have, we send out confirmations to your lawyers, to your banks, and to the county, and also to DPI for verification of all of your assets and about 95% of your revenues.
So you're saying you account for all the money that comes in, all the money that comes out, and what's left, and it's all supposed to equal to the number that came in?
So what got me into accounting in high school was that the balance sheet income statement accounting is just is a simple algebraic equation. Assets minus liabilities equals net position or fund balance. Revenues minus expenses equals change in fund balance or net position. With that equal sign, anything you do to the left side of that equation, you have to do to the right side. When you actually add up your entire general ledger, it comes to zero. All of your assets, all of your liabilities, net position, all of your accounts, they end in a perfect zero. And so anything, like I said, that happens on the left side of this equation happens on the right. And so by verifying the bookends and then verifying 90% of the ends and then testing 90% of the outs, we essentially audit an equation with just multiple variables. Variables like cash, receivables, payables. So on top of verifying your assets, we also search for liabilities. We look at your expenditures that you wrote, the checks you write for the next 60 days after year end to see if those were really expenditures from the previous year, to see if you're manipulating numbers by holding on and not reporting liabilities. So it's a process of verification, searching, and analytics.
Now, you visit us more than once a year, is that correct?
Yeah, the audit is really kind of two phases. There's a financial piece that we can start before year end, but again, can't really get into the depths of until after you close your year. But you also have state and federal requirements for all of these programs that you have that require auditing for compliance, making sure you're spending the ESSER funds for things in the ESSER plan, making sure you're spending Title I money on Title I kids. And so that compliance work can be done earlier than year end. And so we come in the spring and start that work. In fact, when we typically have the audit contract approved in early spring, from there on we start the planning process of documenting controls, getting narratives, who's still there, who's members of management, which programs are we going to audit. So it's a year-round audit with 2 visits on site, one in the spring and one in the summer, and hundreds of hours of pulling documents, pulling invoices, manipulating your trial balance, your transaction history, your payroll records, all looking for anomalies, things that don't belong, differences in like those analytics I was talking about, comparing your salaries to how much it should generate in FICA expense, salaries to how much it should produce in pension expense, even hospitalization. Your tens of millions of dollars of hospitalization. How does that compare to your salaries year after year after year? We anticipate a 10% increase when a 10% increase in the premium occurs. And we have thresholds for all of those types of analytics. And again, so that process goes on again, especially after the summer, for, hours and hours on end, so.
Your firm has been doing school audits for a good while.
Yeah, our firm started about 13 years ago, but it was started with partners who were all working with another firm. I personally have been doing school board audits for 20 years. My other partner that I work very closely with, he's been doing them for nearly 28 years. We were previously members or employees of Dixon Hughes Goodman doing school board audits. When school board audits did not come in favor of bigger firms, we went out on our own, and we currently, me and 5 other partners currently do about 77 of the 115 school districts across the state.
When you look at it, you've given us a good report of our fund balance. You have no concerns about our fund balance. There's sort of been some talk that some money might be missing out of our fund balance, and do you feel secure that the money that from one bookend to the other is what it should be?
Absolutely. Yeah, that my concern for your fund balance was a couple of years ago when you didn't have enough. The ability to add the fund balance you've been able to add in these couple of years, I think it's twofold. It's the pandemic, it's a change in management, and I think it's nothing short of extreme, the turnaround that you've had to the point of you've got enough money to move some of your operating fund balance over into capital. And again, with the approval of the county, I've seen that in the last couple of years at 2 or 3 other districts, because there is fund balance being added to districts across the state, and some counties just don't want to see too much in that operating, so they see a chance to utilize those excess funds to put in turf. There's a lot of turf projects around the state, update HVAC, windows, and the amount of capital outlay going on across the state is intense, especially with supply chain issues and inflation. Being able to utilize some operating gains, again, with the approval of the county, to fund some of those capital projects, I think is a very positive position to be in financially.
Well, based on your work and what you've done here for Johnston County Public Schools, is there any concern about transparency of our financials from a finance department? How well do they work with you during the audit, getting the information you needed? And depending on that answer, do you see any need for a forensic audit of this school system to search for any hidden money or missing cash? I mean, I know that's a strong statement, but I'd like to hear your opinion of that.
When I first hear about a client of mine talking about a forensic audit, it makes me wonder, well, what concerns do you have that you should tell me so that I can go look? And a forensic accountant is first an accountant. A forensic auditor is first an auditor. I am not a forensic auditor. I don't have the title, but I'm a 20-year auditor of school systems. There is a certain amount of knowledge that comes with year after year of working with this school system or school systems in general. I've got all the information I would need to do a partial forensic audit. With payroll records and general ledger transactions to vendors, with all those informations all available in Excel, sortable, manipulatable, I can do more than just bookend the audit. I can bookend accounts, and if that's the type of concern you have, then I would be happy to do that. I don't know, usually with a forensic audit, there is a reason for the suspicion, like, hey, our 941s don't match our W-3 at the end of the year. Because at the end of the day, you're really a payroll service. When you look at the $450 million of expenditures, like 380 of that is related to payroll or the corresponding expenses with payroll. So again, with a forensic audit, there usually has to be some kind of indication of a concern that there's money missing or that somebody is doing something wrong. Hey, there's a vendor that nobody in AP has heard about. What's going on here? Or, hey, I noticed that the mailing address for these two vendors is the same PO box. Those are the types of things that start making you think a forensic audit is needed. It's a detailed dive into transactional activity that, again, we have access to all of that. So if there are those concerns, I'd be happy to, adjust our audit plan. Because again, part of what we do is looking at risk, looking at controls, segregation of duties, who has the ability to do what. And, if those concerns are, warranted, we're happy to, like I said, adjust our audit plan.
But with your work, you don't have any problem with the transparency of our
Not at all.
financials? Okay.
Not at all.
And you're doing your audit of finances, more than likely, if there was something amiss, it would turn up in your analytics and your equation that income and outcome is supposed to equal zero.
Absolutely. Now, again, no audit.
Let me
is-
ask this one other thing.
Yep.
If you see anything or suspect anything like that, part and parcel of your auditing contract with the school system would be to report that and to have it looked into.
Absolutely. Again, you hire us to audit management. Yes, I work with Stephen year in and year out for hours to conduct the audit, but to risk the credibility of our firm doing 77 audits across the state, if I come across something that is not smelling right or makes me concerned, the first call is to Dr. Bracy and then to you guys. Again, having that board of governance, entering in the contract to audit management, I think that that level of, again, another segregation of duties to keep us independent, because that's what every report is independent auditors, and the need to stay independent supersedes any connection with management that develops over the years.
Well, our magic is Stephen Britt and Dr. Bracy. That's how we've gotten, you can certainly tell how far we have come.
Yep.
And it's simply due to their brilliance in managing the funds of Johnston County Schools.
Yep. I agree. The rest of the audit report is pretty boring. It's detailed notes on all your accounting policies. In the back are 3 other opinion letters, one over internal controls, one over state compliance. How many minutes do I have? Oh, 1. I'll make it. The 3 opinion letters in the back are also clean, unmodified opinion letters. They state for the major federal programs and the major state programs, we believe you complied with all of those requirements. We audited all of your COVID dollars. They're considered high risk. They have to be audited for compliance every year. And we also did Title I. Yep.
Thank you for the update. I would just like to say, too, that Stephen Britt, you've done an outstanding job assisting us since you got here under Dr. Brace's leadership. Commend you for what you've done while you've been here. Yes, and I said that. I commend you. Yes. Everything you've done and got us on the right track. And Adam, the clean letter, you talked about that. Can you just clarify that one more time? It was unmodified, is that correct?
That's right. So again, accountants, they got to come up with very vague in terms, but unmodified. So the opinion could, if we had a modification to the opinion, it would be that we believe your financial statements are accurate except for, and there is none of those modifiers within this opinion, so it's considered unmodified.
Outstanding. And I believe in the past couple of years, or past years back, since I've been on, we've had some modified issues that we've had to correct, and mostly dealing with our fund balance and things of that nature. Is that correct?
You've never had an unmodified opinion. We were always able to narrow down, this is what your balances are. What we've had concerns with are, we also have other things that we can communicate through management letter comments, through just discussions at the board meeting. There's also findings. If you have an internal control finding or a state or federal non-compliance issue, that becomes a finding, still unmodified, but saying we believe controls are in place, or that you met all the requirement standards except for these. And that's where we would list findings or deficiencies in controls. And again, the fund balance, at some point we had, I don't remember exactly how we presented it, but it was definitely a discussion point about you are at the end of your fund balance.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, I
Yes.
also like to say that all our departments in the Johnston County Public Schools have their own budget. And Mr. Britt makes sure that everybody stays within their budget. But I have to commend all the department heads and programs that control their budgets and keep it in line, and the bottom line is the way our financial stability is today, because everybody has skin in the game and they control their own budgets.
I believe that was implemented by Mr. Britt when he got here. Is that correct, sir? Yes. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Adam, for your update. Any other questions from the board?
Thank you.
We'll take a short, brief break to set up for public comment. Tonight, we have two speakers signed up for public comment. Citizens who have signed up to address the board during public comment would be called upon as they signed up and will have 3 minutes to address the board. The board suggests that specific personnel or student matters be addressed to the school principal, the Johnston County Public School System official responsible for the program or facility, or to the superintendent and are not appropriate for this setting. Our first speaker tonight is Mr. Harold Delancey. Yes, sir. Our second speaker tonight is Miss Erica Hall.
Hi, y'all. I just wanted to share some positive thoughts on my experience as a parent here in Johnston County Public Schools. My eldest attends Innovation Academy at South Campus in Smithfield. Before that, he attended Riverwood Middle School, and we transferred him to Innovation Academy at the beginning of the school year. We have been treated so kindly and like family at Innovation Academy. My son actually did not enjoy school, he dreaded attending, and experienced small instances of being bullied. I wanted to thank the educators, staff, and administration that have changed my son's educational experience for the better. But I also wanted to address something that many can't do out of fear of repercussion. We have an election coming up. Early voting starts in 9 days, and election day is November 8th. While I believe some of our Board of Education candidates have ideas for the greater good of our schools, educators, and our students, 2 candidates terrify me. They scare me as I think they can be dangerous to my son, whom I just spoke, highly of. He has autism, and my son has had trouble making friends. I'll quote her. "It is especially bad with the transgender movement in schools. If your child is awkward or finds making friends difficult, maybe leans towards the autism spectrum, or is more soft-spoken, they're often falling into the queer movement, including transgenderism, and encouraged to be allies. I'll make it transparent. This woman is correlating autistic children and transgender children. Michelle Antoine, it's none of your business if any of this county's children are straight, gay, transgender, non-binary, or anything. It's not your place to equate autism to transgender youth. The other candidate shamelessly and publicly expresses racist and sexist views for years. Whether it was inherent or unintentional, it was disgusting all the same. That's Kevin Donovan. Some of you will remain on the board and may have to work alongside these 2. One seeks to siphon public education's money to charter and private schools under the guise of school choice, as her husband sits on the Clayton Board of Adjustments. The other is a racist puppet controlled by a partisan pack leader. I am but one voice, and I'm pleading with a board that will remain to ensure dangerous ideas just stay ideas, and not policy if these 2 get elected. These are dangerous, sensationalized, and propagandist ideas to strike fear into our community. Our kids deserve the best, and we must vote to reflect that we want to protect our children from these 2 adults who seek to outstretch their hatred through a position of power, such as gaining one of these seats. We all long for the meetings that had no drama, and for the lack of a better term, we're kind of boring. Electing a racist bigot or a woman who is obsessed with our children's sex and gender identities is not going to bring back the focus where it should be. If you want to know more about what I spoke about this evening, you can go on Facebook, which not many people are, go on social media, and you can look up JOCO freedom of speech. There's a lot of information. News has not picked it up, but it's really sad that I feel scared of another adult that sits in this room right now that will target autistic kids. It's not fair, it's not right, and she has no shame about it. So I really hope that if she gets elected, that you guys keep her at bay. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comments tonight. At this time, we're going to ask Mr. Landis Bullock to step up to the podium regarding our bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greetings to all of you tonight from the Friends of... I'm so sorry. Sorry. You may wish I didn't Because I have a very strong voice. Not necessary. Once again, greetings from the Friends of Johnston County Public Schools. As many of you know, when we have a bond referendum, the county commissioners and the Board of Education ask volunteers to come forth to assist on informing the citizens of Johnston County about the upcoming bond, the needs of the bonds, and how the funds are going to be spent. We have had a very good time doing that this fall. We have had excellent support from members of the Board of Education attending some of our meetings. We've had support from cabinet members attending the meetings. And the school system has provided to us the information, which is available to anyone who asks for it, that we needed to bring forth to the citizens so they could be well informed. We've had questions pertaining to the $177 million bond on how it's going to be spent. It quickly has come to our attention. We have many people in the county who are not aware of how the money is managed and controlled between the county commissioners and the Board of Education. So when those type of questions were being asked, which the Friends of the Public Schools Committee are really not qualified to answer, it was very nice to have school board members there, county commissioners there, who stepped up and immediately answered those questions. So I want to say thank you to the school system for that support. I want to say thank you to the county commissioners for being there. As I shared last night in the town of Four Oaks, our $177 million bond referendum is the best kept secret in Johnston County. I have found people all over the county who did not realize we had a bond on the agenda, on the ballot, on November the 8th. That's very disturbing. We, the committee, in which I said we're all volunteers and we have to raise our own financial support, have had a fairly aggressive social media campaign. We're hiking that up even more to try to get the awareness out before early voting starts next week. We're trying to get information to the people so that they'll understand that this money has to be used for building of schools and maintaining our facilities and updating our facilities. There's a lot of information out there that appears to have been false at this time. The committee, we have been to every feeder school district in the county. Some of the schools we've had the opportunity to go into their feeder district. When I say feeder district, I'm referring to the high school feeder schools. Some of the schools, districts we've had the opportunity to go into more than one time. We have been into many municipalities and are still going into municipalities. Dr. Jonna Faulkner, who is on our committee, is tonight at the town of Benson speaking to the town council in Benson, bringing forth the whole bond referendum program to them. We have had the opportunity to speak to civic clubs, and it gave, when you're in a civic club setting where it's relaxed, quite often the people there know you, they will ask you questions that are very important, and it gives us the opportunity to either answer the questions or to get the questions answered by the appropriate party, which so far has worked excellent with the people. We have had many people to come up to us after the meetings and say they did not realize how the money was managed and controlled. They did not realize that the bonds were sold over a 4-year period and that some of the programs coming up in the near future are on phase 4 of the 2018 bond referendum. We, the Friends of Johnston County Public Schools, after the bond referendum, are going to continue meeting for a while to decide how we can get this information out to the public so in future bonds, the citizens will already know the information. The Chamber of Commerce's of Johnston County have been very supportive of the bond and are even putting on their websites information on the bond, which is nice to have their support. I want to single out that County Commissioner Tony Braswell, Ted Godwin, Patrick Harris, and Chairperson Butch Lauder have been at many of our meetings. Just this past week, I was at a meeting, and it was nice to have 3 of the county commissioners there because the questions that were being directed at the citizens, the Friends of the Johnston County Public School Committee, were really county commissioner questions, and they were there to answer them. Simple questions like, are the bond rates lower than traditional financing, which they quickly said yes. Do we know what the bond rates are going to be in the future? No, but that the county commissioners have the right to resell the bonds at a later date to lower interest rate if interest rates go down. We have discussed the increasing cost of building schools in the future compared to what it just cost us only 10 or 12 years ago to build a school. The citizens needed to know that. The citizens, most of the time, were not aware that our mobile units were costing us $30,000 every time we had to move one, and out of the facility services budget, over $1 million was coming out of it each year just to pay rent and upkeep on mobile units. In most cases, we got thanked for bringing this information to the citizens, and we're going to continue meeting with committees right on up through November the 8th. If we're doing anything the Board of Education doesn't feel comfortable with, please let me know, and we'll certainly try to correct that. Do you have any questions? Because I haven't looked at my notes a single bit, and I'm sure I have missed quite a bit.
Landis, I have to say that you don't have to do what you do, and I appreciate the free time, the time away from your family and your lovely wife to do what you do during all our bond referendums throughout the years. It ain't just this year. It's for many years. I say that we're successful because of the education you provide all over the Johnston County, making sure that the public knows what they're getting when they vote yes for the bond referendums. But I just want to say thank you that your work is not gone. It's not blind to us. I don't know how you do what you do, run a business and then ride all over the county every day, but I appreciate what you do and what you do for Johnston County Public Schools.
Well, like many of you who are sitting on the board, I'm a product of Johnston County Schools, and I owe a lot back to this school system, and like yourselves, given so much of your time, I thoroughly enjoy doing this and hope we continue having successful bonds in the future. As all of you have heard, but just for the record tonight, this is a 3-phase bond, and it's a building block. Level 1, level 2, and level 3. So,
Mr. Landis, I just want to say thank you. We never have to reach out to you to ask to assist us in this project. You always call us and say, can I help? And that means a lot to us. You've taken, like Mr. Wooten said, taken a lot of time away from your family to assist. And, you know, as I've said in some of the meetings I've been in, that safety is at the forefront of everything that we think about now as a school system for things that happened recent as well as last year. And if this bond doesn't pass, it's going to create more safety issues for Johnston County Public Schools. More mobile units are going to be more accessible to intruders, to interfere and to harm students and staff on our campuses. We would have to continue to put these all over the place, and that's a major issue. anybody that is against this bond is, if just safety. Just think about safety, nothing else. And all the candidates running, I'd like to know where they stand on this, because safety, again, is the number one factor here that I'm concerned about for all these students. We continue to increase the school year. We have to put them somewhere.
Well, and I was going to repeat, we were at a meeting, I believe at Archer's Lodge, and Commissioner Harris was there, and the commissioners have been wonderful. They have really stepped up to the plate to support us and to support this. And just to sort of share what Mr. Harris said was, first of all, the commissioners are responsible for building schools. And one way or the other, they're going to build schools. A bond is a much less expensive way to borrow the money to build schools, but schools are going to get built. And I'm repeating what he said. Now, do we want to do it in the form of a bond, or do we want to do it in the form of borrowing the money at an interest rate that I don't think any of us want right now and paying it off that way? So, I just encourage people that are listening, how can you ride around Johnston County and not think that we don't need additional schools? We need additional roads too. But how can we say that we do not need additional schools, plus we need to maintain the 46 sites that we have right now? And you just can't build them, but you got to maintain them. So I just hope that people will, search their hearts and do what's right.
And we think that the voting public will do that. Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Ms.
that's
Sessoms.
fine. Mr. Bullock, first of all, I want to thank you for your dedication and your commitment. This is not our first rodeo together on these things, and throughout the years, you have continued, as Mr. Sutton said, continued to step up, and that means the world to our community. And I appreciate Paula, the fact that that you're left at home while he's doing all of this community civic work, but it's so necessary. And I'd also like to thank the other members of that committee, the Friends, because they are out there working hard to make this happen as well. And, Mr. Sutton talked about safety. We have is it 183 or 186? 186 mobile units right now. And as we continue to grow, if we don't pass this bond, those mobile the numbers of those mobile units will continue to grow. And we, at the leadership retreat back in August, we had a safety expert there to talk to us about school shootings and how to protect our children. 40 years ago, that was not that was a non-issue. You never heard people talk about it because it wasn't happening. And at the rate that school shootings are occurring, this safety expert reminded us that the data shows that children who are secured behind a locked door, they're not the ones who are suffering this terrible tragedy. And yes, mobile units have a locked door, but the problem is, the safety issue is that those students are in and out, going back and forth between that mobile unit and the building several times a day, whether they're changing classes as middle schoolers or high schoolers, or in elementary, they're going back and forth to the bathrooms because those mobile units are not equipped with bathrooms. So they're going back and forth several times a day to the bathroom. They're going back and forth to the cafeteria, back and forth to the library, back and forth to the office, all day long. And those children are not protected. The children who are in our brick and mortar buildings are protected because we have secured those buildings. So the most important thing that we can do in terms of school safety is to eliminate our mobile units. And this bond will help us do that. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much for those kind comments. But just like our committee represents all the people of Johnston County and from all over the county, we have people from different sections. We are very fortunate that when we are presenting the bond, we have something to offer to every school in this county. And when you start talking about safety, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, they're listening because news, 24-hour-a-day news, brings it to the forefront. And we do have to realize we don't want it to be here, but there's always that possibility. I would like to mention the names of our committee members. Blair Barnes from the Archer Lodge area. Richard Carr, who donates his time after hours working with us from here on the school system and up from the Cleveland area. Billy Daughtry, who has worked with us on previous bond campaigns from the Pine Level area. Brandon Evans from over in the West Clayton area. Dr. Jonna Faulkner represents both Smithfield and Four Oaks and grew up in the Benson area, so she works with that area. Caitlin Furr is on maternity leave and still volunteering her time to assist us to make sure this bond is a success. Harold King, who is known all over the county and is a Four Oaks resident. Charles Markham, who grew up in the Smithfield area and now lives in Portofino outside of Clayton. Meg McLeod, who is from the Clayton area. Brooks Moore, who has done somersaults, flips, whatever we needed to get the information that we needed, and has made as many presentations as I have made. But I watched him learn how to do it. So Brooks Moore is representing the Princeton North Johnston area. We have Heather Moser from the Clayton area, who is a very active volunteer like all the other members, and Art Pittman from the Micro Kinley area are all active volunteers in the school system and were very willing to give their time to serve on this bond committee. I've had the pleasure to work with some great people in the past, but this is an excellent committee we're working with this year, and whoever y'all choose to head up your bond in the future, you have some good names on this list to look at. So, but the way bonds pass is just the way you're doing it. You make sure every school and every area is receiving something. Yes, we have heard some people who were concerned that they weren't getting quite what they wanted, but fortunately, when you got gray hair like mine, I could say, but in the last bond or the bond before that, we gave you this, and they remember those days. It's just we all want to look out for our own interests at this time. But thank you to the school board for what you do. Thank you for all the support the school system has put behind the bond committee, and we look forward on November the 9th to having another victory, or should I say the evening of November the 8th of having another victory. So, anyone have any questions for me?
I don't have a question. I do want to make a comment because you, I just want to commend you on your dedication and belief in public education, because you've always promoted public education. And like you, I'm a product of public education. And Thomas Jefferson believed in public education because he believed that only an educated populace could sustain a self-governed populace. And he understood, and our founding father understood, that a free public education for everybody is essential. Not just those who can afford it, not just those of a particular color, but all people, regardless, have the right to access a free and public education to sustain our democracy. So I thank you for your leadership in promoting public education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Always remember your comments of what Mr. Jefferson said, but a good education levels the playing field. Always. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. At this time, we'll go into advisory appointments, starting with Mr. Byrd.
Yes, Mr. Jamie Stoke at Cooper, principal at Cooper Academy, is recommending two recommendations for the 2022-2025 term, Levette Kurtz and Richard Maldo for 3-year terms.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. We'll let that stand as our motion. I'll go to Mr. Wooten.
Mr. Chairman, Principal Crystal Gregory at Innovation Academy has 5 new appointments: Maria Orrego, Pamela Kennedy, LaShonda Thomas, Erica Bowles, and Sonia Saunders, and that's for a 3-year term of 2022 through 2025. And also Miss Kelly Johnston at the Virtual Academy, and her advisory recommends approval of Miguel Figueres, Michael Obalorez, Alicia Carter, and Tony Braswell for a 3-year term of 2022 through 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Wooten. Let that stand as our second. Ms. Sessoms.
Yes, with the board's approval, I recommend the following advisory member, Tina Jones-Winburn, to the South Johnston High School Advisory Council for a 3-year term from 2022 to 2025. And with the board's approval, I also recommend the following advisory members: Wanika Bradshaw, Rick Buckner, Kate Bird, Jeff Caldwell, and Kelly Smith to the South Smithfield School Advisory Council for a 3-year term from 2022 to 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Sessoms. Next, we'll go to Mr. Carroll.
From West View Elementary School, Ms. Mangum is recommended for board approval Tracy Westover to their advisory council for a 3-year term from 22 to 25.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. And I have 2 appointments as well. Glendale Kinley Elementary Principal Ms. Kelly Holland recommends for approval Ms. Tiffany Hawley to a 3-year term, and Jessica Balazzi to a 3-year term. And North Johnston Middle School Parent Advisory Principal Ms. Heather Anders has 2 that she's recommending: Deborah Elliott and Art Pittman to a 3-year term commencing in 2025. So at this time, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion carries 7-0. I'm gonna go back to Mr. Britt. I apologize. We're gonna go back and get your 3 items since you were supposed to go before the advisory appointments.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My first item for your consideration and approval tonight is our 2022-2023 student fee schedule. So state law requires that all public schools in North Carolina publish the student fee schedules on our website. So each year by October 15th, we get approval from the board and we post these fees on our finance page with all our other financial information. So in it, you have things like before and after school care, NC pre-K, parking fees, driver's ed, meal charges, etc. These are fees that are not set by finance. They are set by the schools or requested by the schools and departments. And then we collect all that information. My staff works with all the schools and they collect all that and put it into this document and present it for the board for your consideration.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the student fees for 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Andrews, second by Mr. Byrd. Any questions or comments?
Just thank you to you and your staff for collecting all of this. That's a lot of phone calls,
Yes, it is.
a lot of emails. Thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. And the item that I think the majority of folks want me to speak about tonight is our DNF bonuses that has been in Dr. Bracey's budget message for 2 years now. And so as a recap, this is our this is the slide that was included in our budget proposal to the county for both the 2020, if I get my years right, 2022 fiscal year and 2023 fiscal year. for funding, and it breaks down as follows. So if we have 15 schools that had a school performance grade at a D or F as of 2019, and so the financial incentive for the staff at those schools were, as you see on the screen, it was $1,000 for certified staff if you moved your school to a C or above. It was another $1,000 if you met growth, and then you get an additional $1,000 if you exceeded growth, for a total potential bonus for certified staff of $3,000. And so classified staff would earn half that. And so how does that look per school? If you can read this slide here. So you've got all 15 schools listed, and all 15 schools earned a bonus this year. So within the very first year of implementation. If you look through the different columns, you can see the schools that met growth or exceeded growth, and how they ranked in 2019. So you see your 2019 school performance grade and compare that to the 2022 school performance grade. And then to the right of that, you have what the schools qualified for based off the metrics that we just talked about on the previous slide. And so you have some schools, like if we look at Benson Elementary, it moved from a D to a C, so they earned a $1,000 component. They also met growth, so they get another $1,000, and then they also exceeded growth, so they get another $1,000. So they've met the full $3,000 bonus criteria as presented in the past. Then for classified staff, that equates to a $1,500 bonus for that staff. It impacts roughly 1,157 employees at these 15 different schools. It would come at a cost of about $2.4 million for all 15 schools combined. And this would be funded from local funds and would most likely come out of our fund balance. So this would be a fund balance appropriation as well. And so looking at some of the criteria, since we're using local funds, there's not a lot of, we talked earlier about all the rules that come with ESSER funds, and since this is a locally funded initiative, there's really not a lot of rules to it. And so there's not really any hoops that have to be jumped through to meet any kind of federal regulation. So, but we do need to establish criteria because we need to establish who is eligible and who would not be eligible. So basically, if you're an employee of those schools in a permanent position, you're eligible. And so so this is how it breaks down. So the recommendation is, you must be employed by Johnston County Public Schools as of today. And so that follows the same tradition as all other bonuses that come from DPI and from the state. You have to be an employee of the school system at the time that the bonus is paid in order to receive the bonus. And so you must have worked at least half of the school year at a D or F school, and this would address any employees that might have moved schools during the school year or were new hires to the school. So if you worked at least more, or if you worked more than half the year, even by one day, you qualify for the bonus. So if you work less than full-time, the recommendation is to prorate that amount. So if you are a half-time teacher at Benson Elementary, then you would be eligible for $1,500 instead of the full $3,000 as a full-time teacher would receive. So we would capture employees that were on some sort of qualifying leave or approved leave for last year. So if they were on maternity leave or workers' compensation or another FMLA event, employees would still qualify as long as they were still employed at that school. And it applies to everybody. We're talking teachers, principals, instructional assistants, also known as TAs, custodians, bookkeepers, school nutrition, and so on. As long as they're in a permanent position at that school, the bonus would be the recommendation is the bonus would be for them. And so our tentative pay date would be the end of this month on the 28th. And if you notice, I've got a makeup date there. And the reason why we have a makeup date is because with 1,157 employees and employees kind of moving about the system, there could be some folks that maybe were employed that we didn't capture, at the time, and we need to catch up. And so what we're going to do to try to make sure that we get everybody would be, we're going to provide the list of all the different schools, and then the schools can kind of check and make sure that, that their name is on there. But if for some reason they don't get, don't make it by the 28th, we have a makeup date already built in, just the very next week to get everybody paid. And so I should point out that this is only funded for this year at this time. We would come back to the board and to the county commissioners for future funding as well.
Thank you, Mr. Britt. This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Sessoms, second by Mr. Johnston. Any questions or comments?
I just want to say this is a very wise use of money. It's not just a reward, it's an investment. It's an investment in the goal that our superintendent has set. It's an investment in our communities because as student performance continues to increase, we are going to be delivering a workforce-ready population. So thank you for your hard work to make this happen.
And I hope we spend every dime, because that will mean every one of our schools is A, B, and C.
That's right.
Dr. Bracy, you had this idea 2 years ago, and I'm just glad to see it. It's coming real now.
And let's not forget to again thank our teachers, staff, and everyone at every school for.
And our cabinet that's sitting around this room for their hard
Everyone
work.
that has put their shoulders and heads together to move us forward. So thank you to all of those folks, teachers, assistants, bus drivers, clerical people. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, board members. The last item I have for you is our first budget amendment for the school year. And so it's a very simple update this time. We receive funding throughout the year, and so the majority of this update is just additional funds that have come in from the state. And so we have $4 million in additional state funds, $72 million in additional federal funds. But I should note that this is not a unexpected allotment, or not in addition to what we expected. So in other words, when I say this is additional funds, it doesn't mean that we got another $72 million allotment over what we had already planned or expected. It's just when you see $72 million in federal funds, that just means, well, October 1st is now passed and federal funds follow the federal fiscal year, and so that you'll see that come in throughout the year. So there'll still be additional allotments that will come in. You'll see restart funds. You'll see quite a bit that will come in after this as well. Transportation as well. So, unfortunately, we are still expecting a multi-million-dollar state reversion. And so, what does that mean? That just means that DPI over-allotted our enrollment. So when they built our enrollment projection, they did not take into account, and they do this kind of intentionally because they don't know what the size of a charter school will be, but they don't build into what a new charter school will enroll. And so what they do is they take the very first what they call the principal's monthly report, or the very first month's enrollment at the charter school, and then they will go back and claw back funds from the local public school unit. And so we've known this for quite some time, over a year, that that the new charter school is coming on board, and so we are expecting a reversion, and we have built in about a $3.5 million reversion into our budget, and so that is already accounted for, and we're just waiting for DPI to let us know what that dollar amount is. And so we'll adjust the budget once DPI finalizes the budget, and we also work through what the push and pull is. I like to give analogies, so it's kind of like a tug of war that we have now on our budget, and that's you've got vacancy savings pulling one direction, and then you've got bonuses and inflation that's kind of pulling in the other direction. So you've got this kind of tug of war going on with our budget. So it's really difficult to say how we're going to end this year. But one thing that we can say with certainty is that our days of adding $8 million of fund balance in 1 year are likely behind us. So we're not expected to add any fund balance this year, and we will most likely spend at least a portion of the existing current expense fund balance on various projects. Yeah. And that concludes our budget update. If you have any questions, I'm happy to.
Thank you, Mr. Britt. This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion to approve the budget amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Andrews, second by Mr. Byrd. Any questions or comments?
You the
not-
best. You the best.
If not,
Have a
all
great
in, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Britt. At this time, I'll go to Dr. Bracy.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I ask that the board approve consent items numbers 1 through 12.
This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wooten, second by Mr. Carroll. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Dr. King.
Good evening, board members. This evening, we have two items for you. The first one is the school improvement plan approval for Johnston County Public Schools. At this time, our executive director of school improvement and support, Dr. Thomas, will come forward and share this information with the board.
Greetings. How's everyone doing this evening? All right. I'll dive right in if that's okay. Everyone has received their board binder. Okay, that's awesome. So, each year in our district, and this should be in all districts based on general statute, our board votes on the school improvement plans for every single school in the district. And so tonight, that's what we'll be doing, and you have already been presented with copies of those improvement plans for our schools. By way of context, in Johnston County, when we design school improvement plans at each school, we come together in the summer each year around the time of leadership. And when I say we, that would be my department along with our accountability department. And we work with all of our schools to help them review their data from the prior year, as well as use that data to inform the school improvement goals for the upcoming school year. They always design their goals in 3 areas: overall achievement, subgroup performance, and social and emotional learning. We do have a few schools that decide, well, we want to do a 4th goal. And maybe there's a hyper focus on something like discipline, or maybe it's a directive from an area assistant superintendent or Dr. Bracy to go ahead and add that 4th goal, and that's perfectly fine. We have schools like Selma that have a focus on language, and we have other schools that have different foci, and so that would be their 4th goal at that point. Baselines and targets. Our baselines are determined based on the end of year scores from EOG or from the EOCs. Then they determine their targets, and the expectation in our district is that every school will improve by no less than 5 percentage points from the previous year. There are exceptions. When you have schools like Johnston County CTLA, Career and Technical Leadership Academy, or Early College Academy, they were already performing at, say, the 90th percentile in certain areas, so you can't go 5 percentage points. So those would be the rare. I wanted to make sure you saw this. In well-organized and thriving districts, district leadership ensures that the necessary structures are in place to drive school transformation. So in each school, this would be known as your school improvement team. In addition, you have district supports, such as our summer data and school improvement planning sessions that I shared with you, our district-wide professional learning and development that's aligned to all school needs, as well as district-level support and monitoring of all schools' school improvement efforts, not just certain schools, but all schools. One thing that I believe is unique to our district, we have about 115 districts in North Carolina, correct? In our district, one thing that we do that is unique is provide schools with expectations for specific strategies. These are the areas listed up here, and there's a hyperlink. It says NC STAR Actions 2022-2023. What this does is set that foundation for all of our schools in the area of, say, classroom management and school safety, MTSS implementation, which stands for multi-tiered system of support, social and emotional learning, instructional monitoring, and family engagement. So those indicators that you see in the parentheses are simply aligned to the NC STAR platform, and all schools in our district use that platform to house their school improvement plans. As far as monitoring is concerned, schools monitor at their own level, but at the district level also, we monitor through what you've heard of wraparounds, and through our walkthroughs, instructional walkthroughs, curriculum walkthroughs, things of that nature. So there's extensive monitoring that happens, and I don't necessarily like to call it monitoring, but support, because these are practices that we had to embed in our culture to ensure that we're getting the academic gains we intend to gain. We also provide ongoing feedback, and that is through our superintendent's data review sessions with principals. Those started last spring. Our wraparound meetings and coaching and feedback support through the school improvement and support team. You have access to the plans. You also have these binders that have the paper copies of that information. And our public can also access the plans. The links are there once you go to the school improvement website or the school web link. You go to our schools, about us, and then you can go ahead and access that as well. Every school website has that information publicly posted. Very easy to find. So at this time, based on the amount of time you've had to actually review over the last few weeks, we'd like to have a vote on our plans for the district.
Thank you for the update. This is an action item, so I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Sessom, second by Mr. Johnston. Any questions or comments?
I would first of all like to commend you and your department, as well as all of the departments that work together with our schools to make this happen. As I was going through the various school improvement plans, it was very evident that these were reflective of their data, aligned with the vision and mission of this school system, and research-based strategies that would get them there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. It's good to see, they're not all like you said, many of them it's 5 points, but many of them it's much more than that, or so it's just good to see. I think I walked into one of your meetings where they were working on these, and it was good to see them collaborate together to come up with these plans. And I appreciate the support around this room with our cabinet members that are out there in the schools, the wraparounds, all those things that are helping, because this is what makes this whole thing work.
Yes. Thank you.
If no other questions or comments, we'll go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, and thank you, board members. Board members, our next item is the May 2022 IB Diploma and Career-Related Program Cohort Assessment Data. When I first arrived here in Johnston County, I asked our Director of Special Programs, Mr. Daughtry, when was the last time he had the opportunity to come before the board to talk about our International Baccalaureate program, and he was not able to remember the last time that happened. So we began scheming at that moment to make sure we found an opportunity to put this program in front of the board, just as an opportunity to share information. This year has been a wonderful year in terms of student achievement in Johnston County Public Schools. We've spent a lot of time celebrating, but we recognize and we're excited to share tonight that end-of-grade test scores and end-of-course test scores are not the only set of test scores where our students have performed at the highest level in recent history. And so at this moment, Mr. Kevin Daughtry, our Director of Special Programs, is going to come forward and share just a brief bit of information about our student outcomes for the IB Diploma Program for 2022.
Good evening, Chairman Sutton, Vice Chair Sessoms, members of the Board of Education, and Dr. Bracy. I come bringing good news tonight, and I also bring with me several staff members from SSS who work with the IB program. So at this time, I'd like to ask for Principal David Allen IB coordinator Cynthia Hutchings, and Carlos Sosa, and IB English teacher Laurie Farmer to join me up at the front. Each July, the International Baccalaureate Organization releases IB diploma and career-related program assessment scores, and this year's passing rates are worthy of celebrating. So I hope you'll indulge us for just a few minutes as we celebrate these accomplishments. Let's see. No, I'm hitting the wrong buttons, apparently. Can we get back to... Oh, that's good. Oh, yay. So I'll continue on without the slides if I can. The IB identifies 3 types of IB students. The first IB student is an IB diploma course student. That's a student who is enrolled in 1 or more DP classes. Also, we have diploma candidates and career certificate candidates. These students meet more requirements or have to meet more requirements that are more rigorous than just your DP courses. A diploma candidate takes 6 DP courses, 1 from each of 6 disciplines or groups. They have to write an extended essay and complete the Theory of Knowledge course with passing marks. They have to complete the Creativity, Action, and Service project, and they have to earn 24 out of 45 assessment points total to earn the diploma. A career-related certificate candidate has to earn a certificate from an accredited CTE program at the high school, receive a passing mark in 2 diploma program courses, complete a reflective project, a language portfolio, and pass the personal and professional skills course. This year, the IBO awarded 6 diplomas out of 9 diploma program candidates. We also received our first career-related certificate for our only CP student this year. For our DP course student achievement, there were, and since you can't see the slides, I'm going to sort of read through. We had 15 assessments in literature. We had 12 assessments in Spanish language. We had 27 assessments in history, psychology, and business management. We had 19 assessments in biology and chemistry. We had 16 assessments in math analysis and math applications. We had 5 assessments in visual arts. That's 94 assessments for our students. Out of those 94 assessments, our students earned 174 or more college credit hours. So with college credit, each school in North Carolina has a separate IB assessment policy. So some students could actually earn more college credit depending on whether they earned the diploma or not, or whether they scored higher than a 4, 5, or a 6 on the assessments. So at minimum, our students earned 174 hours of credit. For specifically, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring our teachers and our staff up, our courses had very high teacher achievement this year. For instance, in Group 1 Literature, HL, which is the higher level course, 100% of our students passed that assessment. For Group 2, which is Spanish Language B, which is a standard level course, 100% of our students passed that assessment. And 2 of those students scored the highest possible, which is a 7 out of 7. Our Group 3 History and Business Management courses overall were a 97% passing rate, with History at 93% and Business Management at 100%. Our Group 4 courses, Biology and Chemistry. Biology was at 88%, Chemistry was at 100%. And our Group 5 courses, Math Analysis and Math Applications, were at 73% and 100% respectively. On the last slide that you guys have you have a copy of. You'll see how our data has changed from 2015. Also on that slide, you'll see that how many students we had in the diploma program right beneath the year. So in 2015, we had a cohort of 6 students. In 2016, 12. In 2017, 8, and so on. What you'll find is toward the last 3 years, you'll see that we have so excited about the achievements of our teachers and our students from the cohort in 2022. And I would like to give them another hand if we could. And on a final note, you do not have this in the slides that you were given access to, but I also learned today that Mr. Allen is working on a press release concerning one of our current IB seniors who has been named as a semifinalist for the National Merit Scholarship Program. And you'll hear more about that a little bit later. I appreciate your time tonight to recognize these teachers and the achievements of our students, and just the time to celebrate what's happening in the IB world at Smithfield-Selma High School.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Great things happening at Triple S. At this time, I'll call on Mr. Vetrano.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Board members, before you, we have one administrative recommendation. That is for a vacant assistant principal position at Smithfield-Selma High School. And the recommendation before you is for Javon Bradley. That would be a contract term beginning as soon as you would approve the recommendation, ending June 30th of 2025.
Entertain a motion to approve this recommendation.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Johnston, second by Ms. Andrews. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve addendum number 2 to Dr. Bracey's contract.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carroll, second by Mr. Byrd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Superintendent's contract in 6/30/26. Also, that cabinet salary increase based on the performance increase that we've seen across the county, ranging from $4,700 to $5,200 for the cabinet employees be awarded, and also increase their travel allowance to $700 per month.
This is a motion. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Carroll, second by Ms. Sessoms. Any questions or comments?
I think it'd be useful just for the minutes to reflect exactly which cabinet members were discussing.
Cabinet members are, huh? All right, wait a minute, can we send that out? I don't have every one of them.
Okay. I mean, it needs to be in the minutes, though, what the board's approving. Yeah, I don't.
Ms. Dance can link that to the minutes, to the cabinet. Yeah, we can link all the cabinet members.
Okay, with the cabinet, the members that are gonna be affected would be linked to this motion.
All right. Ms. Sessoms, you still second that with the link?
Yes,
Okay.
second.
All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. At this time, with no further business to come before the board tonight, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Johnston, second by Mr. Carroll. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.